In today's episode of Anish Thing, we are talking about sneakers and streetwear. It's something I'm into myself, and to me, it's such a fascinating subculture because it's very inclusive. There are many depths you can get into this, right from dabbling into it to like really getting immersed into it. And even when it comes to age groups, it's actually for all age groups. You have people, you have teenagers, you have people like 4 or 5 times that age group as well into it. And to speak more about this, I have with me Bhavisha. Bhavisha is an old friend of mine. She runs an uber cool multi brand streetwear store called Capsul with a friend Meenakshi. Before that, she was with Puma for 9 years, working across diverse markets like India, Turkey, Russia, and Ukraine. She's consulted for brands like Budweiser, also been quoted as one of the streetwear voices by High Snobiety, and she's been a former speed skating champion, which I didn't know. And we will speak with her after these short messages.
Hello, hello. It's been another great week here on the IVM Podcasts Network. On Cyrus Says Cock and Bull, Cyrus, Naveen, Utsav, and Abbas discuss how COVID cases are on the rise in Mumbai. Introducing our new show, Intel V Pro presents Future Proofing with Eklavya Bhattacharya, your one-stop shop for all things Web3, blockchain, metaverse, and so much more. In the first episode, Eklavya talks to Advertising is Dead host Varun Dugirala about advertising on the web. On Simplified, Chuck, Shrikeet and Tony discuss why we aren't excited about smartphones anymore. On Paisa Vaisa, Anupam and Atul Suri, CEO at Marathon Trends, talk about trend investing principles. On Smarter with Sid, Siddharth explains the 3 pillars of content creation. And on All Things Policy, the Takshashila folk analyze the Lancet Commission report on financing primary healthcare. We've got some exciting news for you. IVM Podcasts has just launched its merch, and our first line is out now. Head to the IVM Podcasts website and click on the shop tab to check out our first collection of t-shirts. Do follow us on social media. We are IVM Podcasts on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. And remember, if you're enjoying this show or any of our other shows for that matter, please do tell a friend. Also, don't forget to rate us on any platforms you're listening on. And you can also check us out on YouTube. We're also doing a small listener survey to better understand how you respond to our shows and advertising on the network. We would really appreciate it if you could spare a few minutes to fill it in. It helps us build better shows for you. And finally, we would like to thank our sponsors this week. SBI Life Insurance, Apne Liye, Apno Ke Liye. Jupiter, a digital banking app. Cap Gemini, get the future you want. Intel V Pro, built for business. And Intel, future banao wonderful with Intel-powered laptops.
Welcome back to Anish Thing, and hello Bhavisha, welcome to the show.
Hey Aneesh, thank you for having me. We've known each other so long, and it's great to be able to talk. Great to be able to speak about all these things, all things subculture, streetwear, sneakers with you.
Yeah, I'm very excited, and I want to dive right into it. So, what is streetwear?
So streetwear essentially is a fashion which has come up from countercultures like skateboarding, hip hop, graffiti, punk, etc., etc. Right? If you think about the kind of silhouettes when it comes to streetwear, you think oversized T-shirts, tracksuits, sneakers. Sneakers are a key part of streetwear. It's expanded since then to become like workwear, a lot of these different kind of silhouettes. But streetwear, the single most defining, like it sounds like fashion, right? What I'm describing. But what sets streetwear apart is the fact that these are brands which are independent. They come from a unique, distinctive, authentic point of view. Their come up has been from these cultures, built off community. Streetwear doesn't exist without community. And I just want to sort of like continue on this and just read out this absolutely brilliant definition of streetwear by my sort of favorite person in the whole streetwear world, which is Bobby Hundreds, the founder of one of the most OG brands, the Hundreds. So Bobby says, and I'm just quoting him here, streetwear is understood as different things to different people by generation and geography. It can be New York hip hop. It can be brands of the 80s. It might be in Stussy beach culture or diamond skate luxury. Streetwear can be Nike. Streetwear can be second-hand shops like Round 2. Even athleisure brands co-opt the whole title of streetwear. But the larger mainstream now classifies streetwear as casual sportswear, workwear, aligned with a scarcity mindset, hype marketing, kind of like Veblen goods. And much of the appeal of streetwear comes by heightened social status. It's basically a cool person cosign, a blue check on a lapel. This is what he says, which I
Yeah,
find
that's right on point.
encapsulates essentially what streetwear is. Now, this is for the people who sort of have some personal interaction with streetwear, which is now become so much more rampant because sneakers have started popping in how. My personal definition of streetwear is that it is the power dressing of the casual wear world.
I love that. I love that line. I think that that's the way I'm also going to describe it. Power dressing of the
Of the
casual.
casual wear world.
Amazing. So, talking about sneakers, right? A lot of times, sneakers can be the gateway into this. I know for me, it's been the same way. And I think it's relatively easier to get into sneakers. I think anyone who's taken half an hour to figure out what sneaker to buy is somewhere already in the subculture for me. So, how does one start by getting into this, considering sneakers could be your gateway?
Just like you, Anish, even my personally, my gateway into streetwear was sneakers. As you know, I have a past life working with a sneaker brand, Puma. And, the middle of the last decade is where Puma did a lot of collaborations. There was a program called Puma Select, which was the streetwear vertical of the brand. With a lot of these independent upcoming designers. So you had designers like ICNY, which is something started by Mike Sherman of Chinatown Market. That was the first brand he started. A whole bunch, Diamond Supply. So essentially for you, for me, for a lot of people that we're seeing who come to Capsule, the entry point is sneakers. So they literally and sneakers is like the hottest thing right now, right? It's the biggest cultural flex. So people come to us at Capsule saying, this is my latest cop, can you help me? Now you've spent that much money on sneakers, right? Even if let's say you cop at retail, you're still spending 8,000, 16,000, whatever. If you're spending resale, you're spending double that perhaps. Now when you're spending that kind of money, your fits, which is your clothing and your entire look, needs to go along with that. So for a lot of people, we're seeing sneakers is a gateway into streetwear. That's for people like us, right? If you think about the skate community, for them, so you have your Vans and you have your skate shoes, right, that you wear. If you look at the skate community, it's not just about the footwear that they're wearing. They have a whole look. So for instance, and I don't know how many people know this, but skaters usually identify each other by, the fact that they use a shoelace as a belt and not an actual belt. And that's how
No,
you
I
can
didn't know
also
that.
that's how you can identify a skater, right? That's part of the whole overall look. And skate wear is essentially one of the key pillars of streetwear. In fact, a lot of the brands that we stock at Capsule and most of the brands that we started off with at Capsule were skate brands. Brands like Thrasher, Rip and Dip, Huff. These are all sort of brands started by skaters. So sneakers is one way of entering the whole streetwear world, but there are so many, right? There's watches, there's music, brands like Pleasures, brands like the Hundreds. They have Chinatown Market. Chinatown Market did a Grateful Dead collab. So many streetwear brands do collabs with music, and essentially it's an osmosis of community. It all comes down to community. It all comes down to what people are genuinely interested in and how can the marriage of these two communities, or maybe marriage is too intense a word, how can sort of like a mashup of these communities happen, and how can these tribes extend their influences or things that they like through product and merch, and that's essentially one aspect of streetwear.
And while we're talking about sneakers, I think for me, the funny part about the subculture is that if you've copped a really nice pair, uh, either people know it or people just don't care about it. And that's so funny because you'll end up going somewhere, and this happened with me when I got the Air Jordan patent breads. I was at somewhere and this girl was nudging her boyfriend saying, "Look at the Jordans," and I could hear that, and that was a little bit of a flex. But to other people, they're like, "What are these shiny sneakers you're wearing, man?" And like, why? Uh, so one is that cultural flex, right, with sneakers. Uh, but when it comes to sneakers, what is with the whole resale market? Because I think a lot of people may not be aware of this, but you can a lot of people flip sneakers. And even when it comes to buying sneakers in retail, there are certain sneakers that actually, people camp out, people stand in lines perhaps a night before outside a sneaker store. So tell me a little bit more about this side of sneakers.
So the entire sneaker landscape, right? Like Sneakers, essentially, when you talk about it, a lot of people, like you rightly said, it's still a very niche. Uh, it's still a niche area, right? A lot of people think, and they're not wrong in thinking that, but any kind of sports shoes are sneakers. For the purpose of our conversation, I'd like to also share that sneakers are lifestyle sneakers. You know, sneaker brands, if you think about a Puma, Adidas, Nike, Reebok, all of them make two types of sneakers. You have performance footwear, which is like your running shoes, tennis shoes, football shoes. Those are not considered sneakers in this parlance. The lifestyle shoes, on the other hand, that you walk the streets in, and they're very design forward, those are essentially what the sneaker parlance refers to. So now that we've sort of like spoken about what sneakers are, I'll paint a picture. I'll try to paint a picture of what the sneaker landscape is. So sneakers are available, highly coveted ones are available at retail at your main brand platforms, which will be a Nike or a Nike.com, the sneakers app, Adidas website. The two main retail opportunities for people to buy sneakers from in India are Veg, Non-Veg and Super Kicks. These are retailers, which means that they are selling the sneakers at MRP. The resale market is a market where someone who has bought sneakers at retail prices is able to sell dead stock sneakers, which is essentially unused sneakers, at a premium. Why? Because sneakers, which are highly coveted, are Veblen goods. So if there is a demand, for instance, for 100,000 pairs, only 5,000 pairs or 10,000 pairs will essentially be produced and manufactured. It creates that entire hard to come by hype around the sneakers, and it's also an entire manufacturing strategy, a brand heat strategy from these sneakers. The very fact that there is way more demand than supply has led to this complete craze in the resale space. I think that there are over 1,000 resellers in the country in India today. The big
That's mad.
daddies of this,
1,000.
yeah. I had
Wow.
I'll tell you a funny story. So, a few months ago, this 12-year-old kid came into our store, the Capsul store in Bangalore. He came with his dad. And I asked him like what he does, assuming he'll say, okay, I'm in the 8th grade or whatever. I kid you not, his words were, I'm a reseller.
That's crazy.
His dad's laughing. And he's like, let him sell a pair first.
Oh,
But this 12-year-old kid wants to be a reseller, and it's in addition to why is it a culture? It's also a cultural flex. But sneakers today, these highly coveted sneakers are an asset class. There are books written on this, hands down, right? Big platforms globally like StockX have unicorn status, and it's not the only one. There's been massive acquisitions. So you have your StockX, you have your Goat, you have your what is that? Urban Necessities, Flight Club, all of these guys. And it is literally about, that flex you said when that lady in the bar was pointing at your shoes and nudging her boyfriend. It's literally that, right? It is that if you know, you know. And that is the true essence of streetwear, which of which sneakers is a part of this entire space today. And this has become the new luxury. Luxury is not just about price points anymore. It is about being able to come by and acquire hard to come by goods and goods that if you know, you know. So that's a true signifier of luxury today.
so even the sneaker I was talking about, the patent breads that I got from retail from Super Kicks, Super Kicks actually ran a creative raffle. So you had to put up something creative about the shoe. So I wrote a poem to qualify and thankfully get picked for that raffle. From the time I bought it, I think that's about 3 months back, that shoe's 3 times the value on resale market. So yeah, sneakers can also go up in value in the resale. The resale market is quite big. I didn't know it was this big in India, and I think the bigger players are your Main Street. Uh,
Main
who else
Street,
is
yeah.
there?
There's Main Street, there is
Yes.
Sneaky Mafia based in
Okay.
Bangalore. There's Le Baskets based in Bangalore. There's Crep Dog Crew.
Yeah.
There's so many. There's Hype Kicks. Like you use the word sneaker or kicks and hype and city name, and you'll get like a bunch of permutations that these handles go for. The funny thing is, I was on one of the sneaker groups, and someone was actually talking about how to value a sneaker page.
Okay.
Because this is such a. There was actually a sneaker reseller that went on to Shark Tank. I
Oh,
forget the
I
name.
remember that. I remember that.
Yeah,
I think,
and after that episode, there's all these conversations as well that have been going on in this space, and it's interesting. Yeah, it's this hustle mindset, and it's about just trading in, curating trading in Veblen goods. And people appreciate that when they're paying a big buck for it. They appreciate the product they have. Now, usually sneakers appreciate in value usually when they are kept in dead stock condition. What does that mean? That they are not worn and put on feet. Which is why, and they're kept in that same box with the bill.
got it.
Which is why you'll see veg non-veg super kicks. A lot of these guys actually, when they have these drops, these coveted hype sneaker drops, if it's a first come first serve, they make you wear the shoes in store and walk out in it.
Oh,
That is
so
to
you don't end up
undead stock.
reselling it.
Exactly, that's to undead
Got it.
stock the shoe, right? Because at the end of it, the sneaker brands are not really benefiting from the reselling business per se. Yes, they are, because there's a lot more demand for those particular shoes, so indirectly they are. But from the direct transactional value, there isn't really a percentage that they get from it. And because there's just way more demand than supply, more people are getting angry. So every time there's a drop, you'll see the kind of comments in the like as a signaling. So you see the kind of comments that are there on the post, and like most people are unhappy because most people can't cop at retail.
Oh, yeah. I
But the
also
very
think it's
fact that
sorry, go on.
But the very fact that there are so many sneaker resale spots, I think it saves you the trouble of having to go through that pressure of having to cop, and you're able to, negotiate a good price, build up a relationship. So it's another way of building a relationship with a community and forming your own community. Build a relationship. That's what I personally keep coming back to, because this whole aspect of community is really important to us at Capsule.
So this happens a lot with the watch community. So when it comes to a lot of luxury watches, if you know the dealer well, if you have a equation with your watch dealer, he'll be able to get you that watch. Otherwise, you're just not going to get it. So I
Yeah.
totally agree that whole maintaining your relationship can actually really come into play. And speaking of scarcity and hype and stuff around sneakers, I think one thing I've seen very recently, or which is the current phenomena, is the Moon Swatch, the Omega and Swatch collab. And that's such a crazy example where, again, it is not about price because it's a $200 swatch, 200 or 300, whatever. It's a very affordable
Very
Swatch
affordable,
Omega
yes.
collab. And man, there are just lines all over. It's just sold out everywhere in the world where they've released it. There have been people in the lines who've been 12 years old, who've been 60 years old, people who are buying it of their pocket money, people who already have watches worth millions and they also want it. And to me, again, this is the part of the community where it's not about the money. It is not about how expensive or how many diamonds or whatever it has. But if you get it, you get it. And someone will look at that watch and just say, that's a Swatch, big deal. Uh, I prefer a Daniel Wellington, and I hope that's not the case. But if you recognize that watch, you will be in awe of it, and you'll actually go ask that person, hey, can I have a look at it?
Yeah, I mean, it's all that signaling, right? Like, these are products that sort of signal to people, members of your tribe, members of your community, that you're one of them. Or,
Yeah.
we all sort of have similar interests. Whether it is comic book collectors, collectibles collectors, like figurines. There are people who collect Star Wars collectibles. It's pretty much all that, right? And today everybody wants to be connected, and in real life, not just digitally. And being able to find someone from your tribe without having to go through that whole intro is just so much easier, isn't it?
Oh,
So
yeah,
it's that
absolutely.
flex,
Yeah.
and yeah.
So, Bhavisha, you mentioned the term dead stock. You mentioned the term cop, hype. So, I think there are a lot of these terminologies in this space that a lot of people may not be aware of. So, I want to understand some of these, your must know streetwear sort of terms, jargons, and we'll come back to that after these short messages. And welcome back to Anish Thing. I've got Bhavisha with me, and we're gonna get a little lowdown on sneaker, rather streetwear uh, terms and some jargons. So yeah, cop, dead stock. Just tell me the
Go
must
right into
knows.
it. So, cop usually in the whole sneaker world means to buy. Sneakers or streetwear means to buy. So, if you cop something at retail, it means you bought it, you were able to buy it at retail pricing. Dead stock, as I've mentioned earlier, it literally means you've copped a sneaker and which has not been used before. So dead stock means not used, not even used even once. Like your foot has not gone into it. That's essentially dead stock. If you're in the sneaker reselling business and you've copped at retail, sometimes you may put your purchase on ice, which literally means that you put it in your vault and you don't wear it immediately. You wear it, you undead stock it later. You know, either if you're waiting for the value to go up, or if you want to wear it and you're not a reseller and you want to wear it, you're wearing it at a special occasion. I think, if I'm not mistaken, at the last presidential swearing in, the vice president's family member wore Air Jordan Dior's to the
Okay.
presidential swearing in, right? For me, that was like, if you can wear Jordans to a presidential swearing in, that is it, right? It's become so mainstream, it's not going back. Now, if I'm not mistaken, he actually unDS'd the pair, which means undead stocked the pair for that special occasion, his pair of Dior Jordans,
So
or so
undead
the
stock
story
is
goes,
so so
when you wear it.
I've copped a pair of sneakers at retail, and now I decide that on that special occasion I shall wear these.
Yeah, as in, undead stocking means you wear the shoes, and it doesn't
Okay.
only mean you've copped it at retail, you can buy it at resale as well. So essentially, for instance, I copped a pair of ambush dunk highs at resale. I
Got it.
kept them on ice for many months, and I only undead stocked them. I unds them for a special occasion, which was an event at our store.
Man, that sounds like a whole ritual.
Fits,
Eh,
when it comes to streetwear, fits is your entire look, entire what you're wearing from top to bottom. You know, a lot of people dress from the bottom up. A lot of people match their sneakers to go with their fits, and your fits have to be fire. Fire fits is like a really well put together outfit.
Fire fits.
Fire fits. That
Fire
makes
fits.
people
Okay,
go,
cool.
whoa.
Okay, interesting. So let's take a step back. Can you take me through the landscape of streetwear of perhaps the last couple of decades? Like, what's the origin of streetwear? Like you said, it's a lot of culture-driven stuff. So, if you can just understand how this industry's evolved and how the brands have evolved, and just going from a complete spectrum, right, from a Stussy to a Gucci, just to understand this whole spectrum.
So streetwear has been around for anywhere between 20 to 40 years. Like one of the earliest proponents of streetwear, one of the earliest streetwear brands is Thrasher, which is out and out a skatewear brand. That's just, I think, last year celebrated its 40th year. And I know that because we actually had a 40-year special anniversary pack. So when skateboarding was big, this was one of the brands that came out as a. So Thrasher is actually a skate magazine
Okay.
that spoke to people all over the world, right? Covering the best, like it was a magazine for skateboarders, and essentially went into merch. So even right now, the most popular, like it's been 40 years, the most popular T-shirts are the logo tees, and they play around literally with the logo tees. I mean, to me, that is phenomenal staying power of a brand. Like literally, your merch primarily is a logo, which you then collaborate with. So, for instance, they collaborated with a skate crew from London called the Atlantic Drift Crew. Uh, and for some reason, the logo is kind of like a jellyfish that gets integrated into the logo. Has phenomenal staying power. I think what Thrasher has done is phenomenal. They now have a more fashion forward line, which is the Thrasher Japan line.
Okay.
Stussy came around the same time. Around that time, you also had brands like Karl Kanai, which were big with hip hop. Tupac was often seen, in fact, shot a lot for Karl Kanai. It had a lot of these brands have had their ebbs and flows. Fat Farm. So these are some of the earlier brands in streetwear. 20 years ago, brands like the Hundreds came up. The Hundreds is commonly considered one of the oldest brands as well, because streetwear overall is a pretty new industry in that sense. It's been on the fringes, it's only now become mainstream in the last decade. when Tyler the Creator wore a Supreme hat to the Grammys. And the very fact that a lot of people who came from the whole streetwear verse are now in positions of leadership at various luxury houses. The watershed moment was when the Kim Jones-led Louis Vuitton did a collaboration with Supreme in, I think, 2017. Since then, Supreme got acquired by the Carlyle Group for like 50% of it with a valuation of $1 billion. The VF
That's
Corp
crazy.
then acquired, in a couple of years, acquired Supreme from the Carlyle Group at a $2 billion valuation. And that's it. Like, it's become super, like, in everyone's minds now, streetwear and sneakers. So you have the hundreds, and then you have brands like Chinatown Market literally come up in the last 7-8 years. Pleasures, 5 years old. Pleasures as a brand is very music inspired. Chinatown Market, which has now rebranded itself to Market. Fun graphics, they started off, the founder is very basketball oriented. So, you see those attributes in the brand itself. They have by far the largest collection of collectible basketballs. So everything from a yellow smiley basketball to a Grateful Dead basketball,
That one is really, really nice. I would
Yeah.
suggest everyone to go to capsule.co.in. What's the website?
Shopcapsule.com, CAPSUL.
Shopcapsule.com. I completely got the address
Plain
wrong
and
earlier,
simple.
but please go to Capsule and just look at the basketball collections. The Grateful Dead one is really, really cool. There's a lot of detailing on the basketball. It's
Yeah.
quite fun.
Hands down, one of the best crafted basketballs, purely as a collectible. Like the others, I would even say that you can play with, but with this one, there's like embossed roses and stuff on it. It's one for the collectors. So this is essentially the landscape of international brands, and there's new brands coming out all the time. We recently launched an Australian streetwear brand called Jungle Jungles. Very interesting because their entire brand is 70s counterculture brought to the 2020s. And each piece, even though it's brand new, has been crafted with GOTS certified cotton, but to look like a vintage gem that you have managed to find after years of thrifting.
Okay,
So
interesting.
it comes back to that whole thing about like a point of view, authenticity, differentiation. Even in India, over the past, at least in the 2 pandemic years, I think there've been like over 100 brands, streetwear brands, quote unquote, that have launched.
There's no gray area. I remember that. I have some stuff of theirs. Any other brands?
Almost Gods, Biscuit,
Oh, yeah.
Jaywalking. There's so many. There's Polite Society, Moral Science. They have such interesting names as well, right? And each of them has such unique points of view and the kind of products they're doing. Very interesting. So this is the landscape of streetwear, and once you get into it, it's like going down a rabbit hole, a very, very enjoyable rabbit hole, I might add. Once you go there, you probably won't go back to fast fashion because today people want to represent, homegrown brands, which is why people really have a lot of support even for a brand like Capsule, because we are India's first multi-brand streetwear platform, right? And we have this pride in things coming out of India. So we've seen so much support by because of the fact that we're an Indian platform. Similarly, homegrown brands, you have celebrities to influencers, everyone, participating in this movement of supporting homegrown brands. And it's super
Absolutely.
exciting for us to see, where this is going to go. Very exciting time for fashion in general in India.
Where do the luxury brands fit into this conversation? Your Gucci, LV, because they do a lot of stuff. And in this whole scenario, where do the bigger luxury brands fit in? Your Gucci's, your LVs, because they seem to be working a lot with sneakers as well.
Yeah, well, that's a fantastic question. I kind of like touched on that, right, with Kim Jones especially and Louis Vuitton. Since then, he's gone on to head Dior. The last decade saw luxury and streetwear becoming bedmates. You saw a lot of streetwear influencing luxury. So you had luxury brands, everybody doing tracksuits, doing t-shirts, oversized t-shirts, sneakers. Not usually the first kind of brands you think of when you think of sneakers, right? But these became super coveted. Balenciaga, Triple Runner, all of these, right? This decade, I'm expecting to see a lot more reverse influence. So
Okay.
the whole sort of collision between streetwear and luxury has already happened. Streetwear influenced luxury last decade. This decade, we can expect to see luxury influencing streetwear with a lot more tailored silhouettes. You know, brands like a Cold Wall, even if you look at all the brands, even a brand like Pleasure, so much more cut and sew. Cut and sew is more elevated, tailored stuff. So overall, what needs to be understood is that streetwear is fashion. Streetwear is not a blip on the radar. Streetwear is not a fad. Streetwear is fashion today. Why did these luxury brands get into streetwear? There was actually a report published by Bain a couple of years ago which said that by 2024, 2025, I think, 60% of the world's luxury shopping is going to be undertaken by under 40-year-olds. Now, if that's where the market is headed, as a brand, one must be able to cater to them. And then you had people like Kim Jones, who, I don't know if I mentioned this before, but he started his career working for a UK-based distributor that actually brought one of the most earliest streetwear brands, Stussy, into the UK market. Virgil Abloh, Kanye West, the whole Kanye West family that has sort of given birth to so many stalwarts in the streetwear space, right? Virgil Abloh, may he rest in peace.
Of course.
Heron Preston, Jay Lorenzo of Fear of God. So you have these guys in these amazing positions and they have cult status. These fashion designers are the new celebrities. And a lot of them, Demna Gvasalia of Balenciaga, these are people who are leading these very, very influential and, fashion houses that bring to market so many products that people want to emulate. So that whole marriage of streetwear and luxury is complete. To summarize, all these people whose come up has been from street culture are in those positions, and which is why I strongly believe that streetwear is here to stay. And this whole interesting osmosis is what we will see.
We've spoken about a lot of brands. Can you give me like a list of perhaps 5 or 10 must-know brands for someone who's new into the space?
In streetwear?
Yeah.
The hundreds. Anybody... and I'm assuming you have a very interesting, diverse audience, Aneesh. So NFTs are the flavor of the season. If anybody is into NFTs and the metaverse, the hundreds is a brand one must know about. They were leaders in the streetwear space. They're right now leaders in the whole NFT space with their Atom Bomb squad. Very cerebral brand. Pleasures, another very interesting brand because they are built literally off the backs of collaborations. Like every Pleasures drop has graphics from collaborations with graphic artists across the world. Chinatown Market, which has been rebranded as Market, really fun graphics. Like a Chinatown Market t-shirt or a Market t-shirt will bring a smile to your face. So
that's such a nice way. That's such a nice way to put it, right? It'll bring a smile to your face.
Yeah. And one brand, the fourth brand, and these are not in any particular order, right? All the brands have a distinctive flavor. So it depends on what you feel like when you wake up on any day. The fourth brand I'm going to mention is I think one of your favorites, Aneesh, Carhartt WIP.
Oh yeah, I'm wearing that right now.
Oh, is it? A 100-plus-year-old brand which started off as a workwear brand, since then has a WIP edition which is more fashion forward, very culture first brand. Just that Carhartt logo in itself is such a massive cultural flex. So even if the basic investment wants to be in that one product that, is a signaling, go for a Carhartt plain logo pocket tee.
Yeah, I absolutely love that. And the WIP also is really, really nice. But yeah, it's a construction wear company worth billions of dollars now for their clothes.
And the fifth one I would say, since we're talking about streetwear and sneakers, is Staple. One of the earliest, considered one of the earliest sneaker riots that happened back in 2005 was for a pair of City Dunks, which was a staple.
Wait. Did you just say sneaker riots?
Sneaker riots. I did.
What is a sneaker riot?
So back in 2005, Staple, which is a New York-based streetwear brand, did a City Dunk, which is a collaboration with Nike. And of course, limited supply, massive demand. There were lines outside the store. It literally led to a sneaker riot. People who managed to cop the sneaker had to be escorted by the cops from the back door.
Wow.
It was shut down, things like that. I was personally at the Complex Con in 2018 in LA. Complex Con is this big music meets streetwear meets fashion meets sneaker festival that happens every year in California, in LA. There is a streetwear brand called Diamond Supply Company. It's a skate luxury brand. They were very famous for this Tiffany dunk that they did, Nike collab.
Yeah.
They were releasing a canary dunk, a yellow colored dunk, and there was so much demand for it, and there was so much of a crowd. People expected riots, they cancelled the drop. You know? So, yes,
Yeah.
sneaker riots is a thing. I've heard crazy stories.
Well, right now I'm seeing crazy videos again, going back to the moon swatch. The videos that are coming out at every store, it's just massive. Yeah, I guess similar lines.
I mean, I'm sure, Anish, your listener as well, they've probably heard first-hand stories about what kind of chaos goes into sneaker drops here in India. If not experienced directly, they probably know someone who knows someone who's heard of it or been there themselves.
So I've done this a few times, going a little off topic, but I've done this twice now in Bombay, where I've sent a Dunzo to Super Kicks. So if the store opens at 9, there's a Dunzo at 7. And I just got my shoe on. I caught my shoe on both the occasions.
That's brilliant. The Dunzo guy waits 2 hours?
Yeah, it's fine.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. Yeah, but I shouldn't talk about the secret.
Sneaker
Uh,
hacks.
Sneaker hacks. Coming to sneaker hacks, what would be your top 3 picks for someone to definitely have in their collection? Top 3 sneakers.
So I'll split this into 2 categories. Starter pack, and for people who already have a collection, I can share my grails. Starter
Great.
pack for me would be an all-white, triple white Air Force One. It's such a beautiful classic shoe, and a fresh white shoe elevates any wardrobe.
That I agree.
A Vans Old School, that shoe has a lot of, culture. It's such a cultural powerhouse. And my third will be a Puma suede. The Puma suede celebrated 50 years, I think about 4-5 years ago, and it's such an iconic shoe in the whole graffiti hip hop space. There was a movie show out on Netflix a few years ago which talks about Grandmaster Flash and all of that, and the role that the Puma suede, the not just any Puma suede, the red Puma suede played in this entire cultural revolution. So for me, it would be these 3. What are yours, Anish?
For me, it's definitely the Air Jordan 1 High. I personally, for me, Air Jordans is my preferred silhouette, so I have a lot of those. The Adidas Stan Smiths, again, if you get a all white pair, it's just classic. You can literally wear it with anything. You can wear it with a blazer, you can wear it with shorts, whatever. And I think
What
from
about
a
blazer and
comfort,
shorts? The
blazer
classic
and shirt,
LeBron James
yeah,
look.
yeah. Um, I don't think I can pull that off. But the third for me, which I think is a very acceptable sneaker for a lot of people, and it also brings in a really good comfort angle, would be a Air Max, Nike Air Max.
Good ones.
So yeah,
All great. All great.
so for me, these 3 are pretty like. I find a lot of people find a little bit of hesitation towards Jordans, who are like they're worried that how will it look or whatever. But the other 2 are very easy to wear sneakers, and they're just classics, and they'll always be classics.
Yeah. Yeah, you can never go wrong. My grails would be a Stussy Cherry Dunk, any Saleh Bemburi New Balance, and I think these would be my 2 grails. And maybe, these 2 for now.
I think I'm still
Do you
figuring
have
out what my grails would be. Yeah, I think I'm still learning and still figuring out what that would be. But you said also tell me, while a lot of these things look good together, tell me some sneaker faux pas, some things that are just frowned upon.
well, not just sneaker faux pas. So personally, my whole sense is, you do you. You want to do whatever you want to do, it's all okay. It's a point of view. If you're confident to carry it off and you don't give you don't care about what anybody's going to say, you do you. One has to be true to themselves. Having said that, commonly heard faux pas would be to mix sneaker brand logos. What does that mean? Wearing Nike shoes, wearing Adidas track pants, wearing a third brand like Puma socks, for example, right? You don't even mix shoes and socks from
Oh
the
yeah,
sneaker brands.
that is
From
just not
sneaker
cool.
brands. from the sneaker brands. But that doesn't mean streetwear and sneaker brands logos can't be mixed. A common faux pas spoken about by a lot of people is not to mix sneaker brand logos, which means that if you're wearing Nike shoes, don't wear RD track pants or Puma tracks or Puma socks. Even right down to even if you're not wearing apparel with any of the sneaker brands, but if you're wearing like one sneaker brand footwear, don't mix it with another brand's socks. This is what is commonly understood. My personal opinion is you do you. Whatever works, whatever you want to do, you do you. Personally, I would not mix it. This is only true for sneaker brands. You can, by all means, go ahead and wear like a Pleasure top or a Carhartt top and, any sneaker brand footwear, because anyway, these brands are collaborating. So that would be one commonly heard of. But, yeah.
I think for me, one thing that really is a faux pas, kind of pisses me off sometimes, the number of people in a gym working out in Yeezys, which is just bizarre.
Hey, a lot of people say it's a really comfortable shoe to work out in.
Not for weight training. It's a cushion shoe, and I think I can say this at the Soho gym. I see so many people doing heavy weights in a Yeezy. That's just, to me, that's a faux pas and
Are you
should
a
not be done.
Metcon at the gym shoe kind of person?
I am a Metcon person. I just customized a bread colorway for my Metcon 7.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. My trainer is a big Metcon fan. I think he's got like a whole collection of just Metcons.
So Metcon is the Nike Metcon. It's a shoe made for weights and for CrossFits. And the one that I've got is the Metcon 7, which is supposed to be stiffer and suitable for weightlifting. Before we end things, Bhavisha, tell me one niche thing you're into apart from sneakers and streetwear.
Well, it's part of the same universe. I love collectibles, bear bricks. I've been collecting bear bricks. So just a side note about what bear bricks are. Bear bricks is a new age luxury designer collectible. It is a vinyl quote unquote toy. It's been manufactured by this brand called Medicom Toys, which is a Japanese brand, for the past 25 years. But what is beautiful about the bear brick, it looks like a bear, and it was created as a product to pay homage to Teddy Bear. And it's literally become a canvas for artist collaborations. So they regularly release different bear bricks. Each bear brick is either a collaboration with an artist, with a movie, with a sports team, with a sports star, with just pop culture references. It comes in 3 sizes. You have 1,000%, you have a 400%, and you have 100%. 100% is about that big.
What is the 100% size though?
So the 100% is about 7 centimeters.
Okay.
The 400% is about 28 centimeters. And the 1,000% is about 70 centimeters. And you asked me a question earlier on what the hook into sneakers was. I'll also now share a similar, I'd like to share that a hook to get into collectibles is sneakers, because sneakers essentially are a canvas to tell these beautiful stories, and it's all about collaborations, right? That's essentially what the bear brick is. So what we're seeing is increasingly a lot of sneaker collectors, and they have these fancy sneaker closets and sneaker racks. So they like to elevate that entire visual of sneaker display with these kind of bear brick collectibles.
I saw 3 of these kind of stores in Singapore a couple of weeks back, including one at Changi, which is mad, and I think they had the Bape collabs in the 100% size. But yeah, super interesting.
My most coveted item, hands down so far in my journey of streetwear sneakers collectibles, is this 400% bear brick, a Futura collaboration. Futura is one of the most prolific graffiti artists in the world. He's possibly about 68 years old, and he's one of the earliest proponents of graffiti from New York. He's commonly credited with being the first person to tag an entire subway car. So that's the legend that is Futura. I have a Futura 400 plus 100% bear brick. Not just that, Futura himself has signed it and drawn on it. And on the box he's said Windia. So that's I think my most prized possession.
So how much does something like this cost?
It's priceless.
Come on, still. Give
It's
me some figure.
priceless. It's priceless. It's been signed
Amazing.
by
That is
Futura, so
amazing.
it's priceless.
That is amazing. Super. Bhavisha, thank you so much for being on the niche thing. Uh, can you let me know your Instagram handles for you and for Capsule?
So my handle is Bhavisha, Bhavishad, and the Capsule Instagram handle is capsule underscore CAPSUL single underscore. We're recognizable by our display pic, which is Cur for Capsule, Cur for Culture.
Super. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me, Anish. What a brilliant start to the morning and the day.
Super. Thank you so much for listening to the episode of A Niche Thing. If you like this, we have many such episodes on different subcultures. This is on the IVM Podcast Network, and we're available on all major podcast platforms.